Yes. Hello. Hi. Hello. Um, I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nurse Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you have heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, agent underscore 70.
On Twitter and Instagram. What's up, everybody?
Spread love, it's the Brooklyn way.
I was making up my mind just now.
Understood, understood. This is the Comic Book Chronicles, as you may or may not have heard. You can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, that's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You could also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And you can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on the YouTube channel of the Click Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Smash that like button, do all the things.
Oh yeah, hit the like, subscribe, all the notification stuff so that you know when we are on.
Yeah, all of that. Well, folks, tonight we are going to start off with a recap.
I was about to say, do you want to celebrate something up front?
Oh, well, yes. So it is the 450th episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles. So,
and we'll throw in a funk flex bomb. Just for that, let me find the right.
Yeah.
There it is, our 450th episode, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to thank our founders, especially our predecessors, the Cold Slither Podcast Network, namely Eclectic, the former Classic Materia, now OJ Purple Stuff, and at TimDog98. And obviously we want to thank our co-hosts in absentia. That would be at TimDog98 and at PCN_Dirt. We wouldn't be here without them right now at episode 450. So thank you, the listeners, and thank you, the viewers, for supporting us and helping us get this far. And hopefully we'll be with you for many more episodes to come.
Indeed. Every time I hear that, I think about Danger Mouse and not Funk Flex. So I don't know where that's where my mind is, but it is what it is. But yes, absolutely, it has been a wild ride on this here show, to say the least, and at least as far as I've been on the show, anyway. But thankful for it and appreciate all the guys and everybody, and as Agent 70 said, the predecessor show of the Cold Slither Podcast and the Cold Slither Podcast Network, period. Also,
right.
From that show and our other host in absentia. So, but we're gonna keep this here going. I wish we could have done something special, but it's things are things, folks. We still we still in some times here.
Yes.
And people are doing things, so kind of hard to put things together as it is. So, but that being said, so let us get on with the shoe. By starting off with the recap of episode 3 of Star Wars: The Book of Boba Fett.
Right. So, this week on the Book of Boba Fett, we saw a couple of things unfold. First off, we lead off with kind of a recap of what happened on Mos Espa, or specifically within the crime jurisdiction, as it were, of Jabba the Hutt in the wake of his demise on, and obviously spoiler alert for the Return of the Jedi if you haven't watched that. But obviously we're gonna ring the spoiler bell here for Book of Boba Fett episode 3 in 3, 2, 1 episode spoilers incoming. But catch up on this when you can and tune in and listen to what we have to say. All right, so make sure to fast forward just a bit if you're not interested in listening to any spoilers on episode 3 of the Book of Boba Fett. So getting back to what I was just talking about, a palace droid called 88 is giving Boba and Fennec Shand the breakdown of how things shook out in the wake of Jabba biting the bullet at that point in Return of the Jedi, and lots of stuff happened once Bib Fortuna assumed the mantle, and some interesting characters took over bits and pieces of Mos Espa, including a Trandoshan group, an Aqualish group. That's the first time I had heard of that, and a Clatuinian group, crime syndicates.
So basically, they broke
divided up Mos Espa.
Right, they broke up Mos Espa into 3 parts, and those were the 3 parts in the sections with those peoples.
Right, and ultimately, those sections are all paying tribute to the mayor, Mok Shays, and now with Boba Fett kind of stepping in and trying to retake Jabba's old crime family jurisdiction. There's been a bit of an upheaval. And so at this point, we get someone coming to Boba Fett asking for help.
And
right?
Without a red stapler.
What's that?
And without his red stapler.
Oh, is that where that guy's from? I knew he looked familiar.
Well, also news radio, but yes.
That's funny. TPS reports and all that.
Exactly.
So we get... we get this apparently a water broker, because obviously water is one of the most prime commodities on Tatooine, the now desert planet, as has been emphasized during the course of these episodes, that he needs some help because some punks who are cybernetically enhanced have been stealing water from him, and he's asking for help from Boba Fett. And at that point, Boba, Fennec, and their Gamorrean guards head over to the workers' district to face off against these band of youths, as my cousin Vinny would say.
Yes.
And at that point, I love the characterization here in the recap that we're reading. A plucky lass named Drash. Played by I'm not familiar with this actress, Sophie Thatcher.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with the Yellow Jackets. I know that it's a show. And these youths, led by Drash, recognize who Boba Fett is, but aren't necessarily intimidated by him, and essentially bring their case to him that the water dealer is overcharging for the water. Basically asking for a month's worth of wages for just a week's worth of water. And at that point, Boba Fett confronts the water dealer and basically gives him a fraction of the money he's asking for, orders the broker to the water dealer to slash his prices, and then basically asks the youths to come and work for him. And at that point, Roddykat can take this next part.
Yeah. So, and I guess it's worth noting these youths are cybernetically enhanced in one way or shape or form, because, like other people we have seen in the Star Wars universe, have taken to cybernetic implants. Some might know Valance from the Bounty Hunter series. I guess Darth Vader counts in that number also.
So does Luke.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're right. And so they hop on they grab their GAC and their multicolored bikes, which excuse me, they're multicolored Vespas. Space
Listen, they
Vespas.
are unfortunately very bright colored Vespas.
Right, and I think that's probably like a kind of a '60s kind of a mod, Vespa game kind of callback or something like that. I think I know I've watched a couple of Easter egg videos talking about that thing also, but I already knew I saw that when those things showed up. I was like, why are they riding space Vespas? Like, what's going on here with that? But anyhow, they get back to Jabba's palace. Oh, excuse me, Boba's palace. That's still kind of hard to kind of keep saying.
Right. They even make a point of that at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, and going back to that, yeah. So it is worth noting on that real quick that Bib Fortuna was definitely not Jabba, and they kind of make a point to say that he kind of chose to be a figurehead and kind of played the scene, as it were, with the three people, with the splitting up of the areas, and
Yeah, it was much more of a he was much more of a deal maker than like an actual boss.
right.
It was just he was just trying to make sure that he kept some piece of the action.
Exactly.
That's how I read it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like he was pretty much, people looked at him as far as like the as a figurehead, as so to speak, but not really any kind of real power, So
Right.
that's pretty much how it. But anyway, like back to the palace. Boba hits the back to tank again, as he's wont to do, and he cuts back to his time with the Tuscans, which I feel like this part was kind of retribution for last week's flashback, but still was unnecessary, as Agent 70 and I talked about. We'll get to that in a second. He goes into Mike's eyes later, goes sees the Pikes Syndicate, who and the Pike Syndicate's boss is voiced by Phil Lamar. If you don't know who that is, I don't know where you've been for all of your life. He's pretty much voiced your childhood at this point, or most of y'all's childhood at this point. And I was actually kind of curious about this. Is like, why is he riding a bantha instead of one of those bikes he had? Like, he could have got there way faster had he made the trip on one of those. But we're not, whatever. Splitting here too. Apparently there was a Mandalorian reference with Amy Sedaris' character in there somewhere as they was riding through and her droids. But also some stormtroopers heads on a pike, which we've seen before in The Mandalorian. But Boba goes up to the Pikes, asks for protection money. The Pike boss is like, "We already gave to the gang you busted up last week, so you're gonna have to settle that with them, because we're not paying two people for this." And Boba was like, "All right, I'll take care of it." This is when he heads back to the Tuscan Tuscan settlement to find that they have all been slaughtered by the said biker gang, who apparently must have came when he was gone and took their bikes back also.
Right.
So Boba, being the only one of that I guess tribe left, buries them all, and I guess I don't know if he burnt that gaffy stick part that he still had, but he just seemed like he did something with it. I assume that's what he did, but he kept.
It seemed to me like he burned all of their gaffy sticks, including the little kid's gaffy stick, like the practice gaffy stick that the little kid had.
Right. But he kept theirs, obviously. But yeah, he burnt everybody else's sticks along with them, and then rode back to well, no, actually, that was it. Excuse me. So then cut back to the present, where he gets yeeted out of the back to tank.
Roddykat definitely doing his best to keep up with the times. I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
So yeah, he gets yanked out of the back to tank by none other than Black Chrysanthemum, who starts I don't know. Some people have said this fight was kind of I don't know. It basically, Chrysanthemum was kind of having his way with Boba for the most part. Boba was getting some shots in here and there, but you're going up against a Wookiee, and he was, all he could get to at one point was his gaffy stick. So, even though he was right there by his thing, I'm surprised he didn't try to at least knock a rocket at him or something. But the character has to
I think
stay
he
around.
tried to put it on, right? What it is that he grabbed one of
there.
his gauntlets and then tried to activate it, and then Chrysanthemum was on top of him.
Right, he punched him with his brass knucks. Yeah, his electro
Right.
knucks.
So, ultimately, I thought, at least in my opinion, I thought the fight was okay because it's a Wookiee.
Right.
And it's Boba Fett without all of his gadgets and doodads.
Right. And still kind of sort of presumably hurt at this point because obviously he was in the back to tank, so he was still kind of recovering from whatever. But so
Right.
So the fight was going on, and there's the young Vespa gang that he
The Utes.
Yeah, the Utes. I can't say the 2 Utes because it was like 5 of them, but
right.
The Utes come in and try to help out, and they kind of take shots at to break the Black Lantern all in a circle, and getting some shots in. But again, you need more than that than these folks to go up against a Wookiee.
Right.
Lesser Wookiees would have still given these folks probably a time. So, but the fight goes down into the throne room where they end up trapping Black Chrysanthemum down in the empty Rancor pit.
Right.
So that from that I guess they end up celebrating because they cut to the next. Well, the Gamorrean guards got involved. One got hurt because Black Chrysanthemum kind of bit one of them. Boba was like, take him to my back to tank. So we can get him square. Then they cut to the next day where Boba and Fennec were having a big spread of a lunch, I guess in celebration. Like that seems uncalled for. Like you almost got your behinds handed to you. Is that a good reason to be celebrating? But they had a nice spread and some stuff on it. I'm trying to remember, was this where the big frog thing comes in? Because at some point that frog thing from the beginning of Return of the Jedi eats a bird that ate another thing, and it was a kind of a callback to Return of the Jedi. But never mind.
I think so. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it was kind of like a tracking shot right at the beginning of the scene as they're basically coming in from outside into the palace.
Right. So I was like, that was a nice little callback. And of course, the familiar bird from that thing. But yeah, so they were having their lunch, and then the Hutt twins come a calling with a gift, no less. They basically came and said, "Hey, we're sorry for for sending Black Chrysanthemum up against you. I guess they must have heard he, somehow that."
Oh, once he didn't report back,
right?
That was probably their first clue. But yeah, more than likely, there's they had reason to know that Chrysanthemum failed at his task.
Right. So they basically said, "Hey, my apologies. We're out. We sorry for sending them up against you. We're leaving Tatooine. We advised you to leave too." Because the mayor had already promised I think this is when we found out that the mayor had promised Tatooine to the Pikes,
right?
Pike Syndicate, and like I said, they bring they tell this to Boba, and they basically say, hey, they bring out Black Chrysanthemum to give back to the Hutts, and they was like, I don't know, sell them back to the Gladiator Pit, which is a reference to the comics,
right.
I believe the Darth Vader comic books. And they also give him a gift of a Rancor, a baby Rancor, I guess, or I don't know if it's a baby Rancor, but a
well, they call it a Rancor calf,
right?
Like a piece of livestock. So,
right.
Or at least a calf, like a like think of different animals that have calves. Yeah. So, the key in this particular sequence is who the keeper of the Rancor is.
Yep, and none other than Danny MMF and Trejo is the Rancor keeper in this note. If you don't know who Danny Trejo is, you don't know where you've been all your life.
Look it up.
Exactly, and it kind of makes sense because Robert Rodriguez directed, and I think he's also producing this show. So at some point, we were probably going to get a Trejo sighting. So
makes all the sense.
oh yeah, absolutely. It was good to see him though. That being said, what we were at, I remember when I was watching, it's like, wait, are they gonna actually give him a speaking part at this time? Because we weren't really sure. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second.
Right. So at this point,
Actually, we don't find out. We don't find out that the Pikes are promised by the mayor, but we do find out that the mayor promised the territory to someone else. We don't get that information of who it is till a little bit ago. But,
right, a quote unquote another syndicate.
Exactly.
So at this point, Boba Fett actually has brought out Black Chrysanthemum to the meeting. You know, when he's meeting with the twins, the twin Hutts, and Boba Fett offers them back Chrysanthemum as as a sign of peace, as part of a truce, but the Hutts basically turn that down. So literally Boba Fett sets Black Chrysanthemum free and says no hard feelings. It was all business. He understands, right?
And don't work for scum, Skywad, whatever they called them, but basically,
yeah, exactly. So ultimately, the hints of the Godfather movies still continue in this show. It's all a business, right? Mm-hmm. So we cut to Danny Trejo's character educating Boba Fett on the Rancor and how because this Rancor is so young and is actually wearing blinders, it's actually a way to influence who the Rancor imprints on, as when the blinders are actually removed. That's something that is obviously a well-known phenomenon in the animal world, especially when you have keepers and whatnot with wild animals. So Boba actually says he wants to ride this Rancor at some point, and the keeper says that's going to take some time, but at the end of the day, he does remove the blinders and has the calf imprint on Boba Fett. So it's an interesting foreshadow of what may come at the end or towards the end of the series if we get a Rancor literally wreaking havoc on the enemies of Boba Fett outside of the Rancor pit.
Well, that might not be the case of that, because from what I'm understanding, that's coming from two different places. One, Boba's first Boba from the holiday special where he wrote something much bigger. That was where that part comes from. And then apparently the part about riding Rancors was from one of the extended universe novels, The Courtship of Princess Leia, I believe it was.
Okay, and but you don't think that's a bit of foreshadowing in this?
Maybe. I mean, could very well be. Yeah, he could very well. I mean, but who's to say that he's going to be riding that Rancor into battle, or he's going to be riding because, like, hey, look at that, I got a Rancor. I can tame a Rancor type situation,
Well, we still have a few episodes left, so I can just see that as his way of turning around. And if we haven't, if there's something that we have to understand to this point, a lot of Star Wars tropes have kind of been turned on their head over the last several years, and one of them being a Rancor kind of confined to a pit, maybe one of them.
Right. And I feel like that I feel like in that when they're describing the Rancor, and it's like, yeah, it's not like what we thought it was, but then they imprint themselves on humans and this and that and other, and they're actually very emotional, complex. I feel like some kind of way, and I don't know, I've never owned a pit bull, but I feel like that's kind of likened to that in a slight way, not necessarily a full way, obviously, because pit bulls and are not Rancors.
No, I get it. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess what you're saying is that you can draw some parallels. So, right. But in any event, as we move on in the episode, Boba Fett and Fennec and their cybernetic backup gang of youths head into Mos Espa to confront the mayor, and the major domo hems and haws and says that he's gonna get some agree to get some FaceTime with the mayor, but then locks the door behind him and basically tries to make a getaway. And at this point, Roddykat can talk about what happens next.
Right. So there is I don't want to say leisurely, but there is a paced chase through the streets of Mos Espa.
Right. It's just fast enough that you can't do it on foot.
Right. Like,
That's really what it is.
because these street punks on a Vespas chasing this speeder that looks like the speeder from Solo, that almost that speeder chase from the beginning of Solo. It looks like that same speeder, kind of. But regardless, but the chase kind of goes for a couple of minutes, and there's a big ramp thing that happens, and one of them goes through a picture of Jabba the Hutt, which I guess is a Ralph McQuarrie thing, from what some people are saying. But they finally end up stopping the major domo by running him into. It's basically a kind of a Back to the Future moment, to where if anybody remembers that, to where Biff was chasing Marty, and then Biff and his crew was chasing Marty and runs into sideswipes a truck with manure. Well, a similar thing happens here, except for it's Meluron fruit, and yes, that's that same fruit from Rebels, from that one episode of Rebels that they end up needing to go find.
Oh, that was the fruit for Hera, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, which, remember, they had how hard of a time they had trying to find that particular fruit during the episode, and here's a bunch of it right here. So yeah, so there's that, and then we come to find out the major domo's like, the mayor's gone. He's allied with the Pikes, and that's who he promised the Mos Espa to. And then I think this is when we see the transport comes in with a gang of Pike Syndicate kind of come in, and Boba gets kind of word of this through one of the street I want to call them dandies, but they're not dandies, but
they're youths.
Yeah,
just stick with it, at least for this episode.
Exactly. So, like I said, a bunch of Pikes come off the transport. Boba gets told about it, and then it's like Phoenix tells Boba, they're going to war, and Boba's like, well, we'll be ready for them, and then the episode ends.
Yep. So I thought this was an okay episode. I think we definitely benefit from being educated upon some of the animated stuff that definitely fills in a lot of these gaps. And even with the comic book stuff, I'm not as familiar with it as you are, Roddykat. Mm-hmm. I know that I recognize Black Chrysanthemum, but I just haven't kept up with the comics like that since the first initial wave of books.
Right.
So I think we're enjoying it more than some others because we have a deeper knowledge of a lot of the stuff that is being touched upon. Yeah. I don't know if you've been listening to any of the criticisms of this.
Yes, I have.
Show. And, I think a lot of people are finding fault with
the flashbacks.
The delivery that Tamura Morrison is giving, especially helmetless.
Right.
He's spending a lot of time without the helmet on. He's spending a lot of time not doing very Boba Fett-y things. So yeah. I think maybe the people have to adjust their expectations because, we've already figured out by this third episode that we're definitely going to be, this is kind of a, we're definitely seeing elements of the Godfather movies. We're definitely seeing elements of, it almost feels like a superior foes of Spider-Man thing where we're dealing with all the bad guys and we're not seeing any good guys. There's all sort of levels and shades of gray here, going all the way to the Pikes. And, the Pikes are not nice, they're not nice characters. At least in the renditions that I've seen of them, the portrayals I've seen of them, they're smugglers of the lowest order.
Right.
And forgive me, have they ever been portrayed in live action up until now? Were they in Solo?
They were in Solo.
Okay, but that was the first time we saw them, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
I don't think they were in the latest sequels, right? Did they
Uh
mention them? Did they mention them like at in Force Awakens when because they were talking about Kanji Club, right? But they
oh,
didn't call it. They didn't talk about the Pikes. If they had said the
right.
Pikes, I would have been happy. And then they called them Kanji Club. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, Country Club. I think that's a different. That might be a different person, thing, place, whatever. But I don't recall them. They may have like shown up. They might have had like one of them show up in a like one of the in like
Like
one of
in
the
a lineup, basically.
right or in Martha Mas Maz's place. Like maybe
Oh,
that could have been somebody
Mascanada.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Mascanaza's place. But I don't know if that's the case. Outside of
All
that, I
right,
can't think of any other places that would they would have shown
right.
up.
I mean, because at the end of the day, I think the fact that we know that the Pikes are a big deal
Right.
helps the threat level, and I think people will learn about the Pikes more in the next episode to seeing what kind of force they can bring to bear.
Right.
But we already know of their reputation as being, a crime syndicate, smugglers of the highest order, especially when it comes to spice.
Mm-hmm. And they've definitely been. I know I've seen in one Easter egg video that I watched that there may possibly be a link to Crimson Dawn.
Right.
Also, that was inferred, but
Well, didn't they say Amelia Clark was going to be in this?
I don't recall. I mean, it would make sense if that's the case, but I don't recall. So if because I mean that's definitely where the comic books have definitely gone because the Crimson Dawn. If folks haven't been paying attention to the art show at least, for that last War of the Bounty Hunters event that was up going through Star Wars has been centered around Crimson Dawn and Crimson Reign, which is I think still kind of going on. Is dealing with the Crimson Dawn and Kira, which is Amelia Clark's character. So she's still around in the universe as far as at the timeline of the comics, which is after Empire.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically doing something there with that, and actually, it sounds like they're probably going to be killing that off sometime this weekend. Not this weekend, but this year. The fall of the Crimson Dawn sounds like this is what they're teasing in the comics coming up sometime this year. So we're probably going to be with that for a good while. So that would make sense if that's the case, and then she shows up in Boba Fett, you know, um, probably at the early ends of at the early ends of things. So, but I think that's pretty much that. For that. It was a decent episode. Like I said, it is definitely a Star Wars something. And as far as the criticisms are concerned, like I've seen criticisms about whether the flashback keep going back to the flashbacks are working or not, that kind of things. Um, you know, I don't know if this show would work if Boba was like just doing Boba Fett stuff because we kind of saw that in the Mandalorian 1, and obviously Boba Fett not being a character that, at least the live action version, has spoken a whole lot. I don't know how well that will work because again, we got that in the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it was just served to do just that same thing over again when they're trying to um give the character some legs basically. Because I'm sure there are people who were like, you know what, Boba Fett's a badass character. We'd love to see more of him, and just like you said, I'm sure it would be because they wanted to see doing Boba Fett things. But again, got that in Mandalorian. So that being the case, though, unless you got something else to speak on, we can move on to the books.
No, we can move on.
All right, cool. Books of the week. We're going to start off with Amazing Spider-Man number 85.
All righty then. Amazing Spider-Man number 85 is written by Cody Ziegler with pencils by Paco Medina. And here we go, folks. There's a lot of inkers on this book this week. It's inked by Walden Wong, Wayne Foucher, Paco Medina, Andrew Hennessy, Victor Olathaba, and Roberto Poggi. Colors are by Espen Grundetjern, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Take it away, Roddykat.
So the crux of this book is pretty much Ben versus Doc Ock round 2. But first, he kind of runs into another Beyond Core building, trying to meet up with Maxine Danger. But he pretty much runs up the floors. We don't necessarily see the whole rise up through the floors, but he goes through a few different departments and sees what Beyond is up to, which I got to kick out of that part because the first one he goes into, you're not ready for this, and then he goes in there and just comes right back out, and that was kind of funny. And then he runs.
It's kind of a hint at what I was going to say is, before you move on, it was kind of a hint at the Beyond corporation's origins in Next Wave.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like all this like kind of really wacky science, extra dimensional stuff. And
that's
you know, I'm not that familiar with that Next Wave stuff. I honestly probably do need to go back and reread that because it is on Marvel Unlimited. No plugs for Marvel Unlimited, but we know it's a great resource.
It's a good series. It's only 12 issues, so yeah, you should definitely check that out.
Right. So ultimately, I thought that was a nice little sight gag and just a story addition that lets us know that Beyond is not just another evil Roxxon type corporation.
Right. No, they're an evil, crazy science type company, and also
up those extra dimensional aspects to it also. Right. So I think that's the important thing. Like I said, it's not just Roxxon.
Exactly.
Even though Roxxon took it to another level during whatchamacallit, War of the Realms.
Mm-hmm.
So, but carry on.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. And those hangover pills keep popping up. I know, no pun intended, but they keep talking about those hangover pills. I kind of wonder if those pills are gonna end up being something else, because they keep talking about them things like almost every issue. Like I feel like they've brought those pills up more than they've brought Peter up at this point, which we haven't seen Peter in a couple issues, by the way, or at least one or two issues, but regardless. So yeah, anyway, Otto ends up running into the Daughters of the Dragon, and who pretty much kind of deals with them, or at least moves them out of the way before.
Yeah, I was about to say they kind of job to him. That's a wrestling term, folks.
Sure.
They kind of put Doc Ock over a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, there's that. But he ends up running back into Ben, who was on a date, but wait, was he on a date? Yeah, I think he was on a date. But also gets he also pulls a Thor with Maxine Danger as he goes through as he gets through the door. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh yeah, I would have words with you. Yeah, that was great.
Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, I can see you there. So, but then, like I said, this leads into the rematch with Ben and they basically end up taking outside, where Otto pretty much gives Ben the information that he stole in the last issue, and almost like he's helping Ben, but you know, obviously Otto has other designs going on because he's trying to get his the stuff that he did while he was at Parker Industries back, which is his whole reason for going after Beyond in the first place. But he was like, man, you're nothing to them. You're basically a pawn in this. You're easily controlled and this, and that, and the other. And here's the information. You don't have to believe me, but do what you will with it. So Ben goes back to Maxine and was like, nah, Otto got away. The data drive got destroyed, but he still has it.
Right. It's implied that he still has it, and it's also, you know, I guess Otto Octavius comes in as kind of like this Deus Ex Machina that basically opens Ben Reilly's eyes to what's really going on. Right. Even though, you know, Roddykat and I were discussing this just prior to the show, and I'm like, my position is, you know, Ben Reilly's a fool if he doesn't figure out there's actually, you know, something else, you know, ulterior going on. Right. And you know, we'll see if this drive and anything else related to Otto's time as the Superior Spider-Man comes back. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you read the Devil's Reign Superior The
Superior.
I didn't read
no,
that,
I didn't. Mm-mm.
so I don't know if anything came of that.
Right. Yeah, I kind of wondered that also, but no, I didn't read it.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's
Well,
pretty much
I just wanted to mention that, you
yeah.
know, we're left kind of hanging with regards to what Otto gets out of this and what Ben Riley gets out of this particular set of data.
Right. Yeah, because as we said before the show, yeah, like Ben, he wasn't completely stupid about going into this thing, but he was just kind of going with it because, like, well, he thought it was a shot to, to be better than what he was or something. I don't know. His motivations in this was kind of whatever they were,
Right.
trying to get a better life for himself and his lady friend. So yeah, we'll see how it turns out. We have stayed on this book longer than we both said we were going to do. So
Of course.
that's the other takeaway here.
Of course. I'm probably hate reading it more than anything.
No, I'm not, because you know how I feel about hate reading, but yeah, I'm not necessarily hate reading, but it's like, okay, there's been just enough stuff in there to kind of keep me of some interest, especially with the Beyond stuff because of Next Wave. So I'm kind of curious on that front, and of course the fact that the Daughters of Dragons are in there, who at this point are not really being used, to their full.
Yeah, like I said, they're being set up as jobbers, at least in this issue. So. Right. But it is Dr. Octopus. He is a pretty formidable villain, on his own.
Sure.
So
that's the part that bothers me about this particular issue. And then we can go on because in the fight with Ben, he was like, "Oh yeah, no, we got all this stuff that was set up to fight you. Like, why wasn't they given? Obviously, we know why they were given it because, like you say, they set them up to quote unquote job or whatever the case may be for that. So I get that part, but I'm sitting here like they could have at least given him a little bit more of a try than than what they set him up with.
Oh, you mean giving it to Misty and Colleen, right?
Like,
no, because I think that stuff was like under lock and key.
Right.
So
I guess so. But anyway, like I said, it was still to set up the fight between the rematch between Ben and Otto. So that's it is what it is, right. Regardless of what.
Right, and ultimately, Ben Riley does technically come out on top. He basically disarms every pun intended. Oh no.
But he also did.
He definitely disarms Otto Octavian.
I'm just going to move right past that joke. I'm just going to continue to move past that.
I did the rim shot. We know that one was pretty bad. Yes. But he does disarm Otto and, gets the upper hand until Otto turns the tables and says, "Hey, you're just you're just a lackey."
Right. So yeah, so that's pretty much that. And like I said, coming off of that, we'll see what happens after that because Ben ends up lying to Maxine about it, like I said, and that ends the issue, and we'll see what happens going forward. So we're going to move on to another book. I think we said Spider-Woman. Speaking of special Devil's Reign, right?
Yeah, you can take care of the credits here. I'd skim this book, so you can more than freely talk about it. Okay. No worries about spoiling me on it. Obviously, spoiler warnings are in effect, but I'll ring the spoiler bell if you want to talk about anything that might be of import.
Yeah.
Or relevant to a spoiler bell.
Well, the problem with that is I'm not entirely sure, but we'll get into that in a second. So yes, creative team is writer Carla Pacheco, art by Perry Perez, color artist Frank Darmada, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So this is a potential click of the week for me because I enjoyed it. From the sound effect punches to a particular part that I discussed with Agent 70 prior to the show. But basically, after the events of last issue, and apparently, like I said, this is a Devil's Reign tie-in, Jess goes up against the Kingpin because her friend Lindsay gets kidnapped and gets hurt. And because of Devil's Reign, Kingpin knows Jessica's secret identity. So, that gets brought up early and often. And I don't know. And the reason why I said I'm not sure what all of...
Is this Lindsay McCabe?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a long-standing character in the Marvel Universe, ladies and gentlemen. So
yes, correct. But like I said, Jess goes after the Kingpin because Lindsay gets hurt, and they fight it out. There's a particular couple of panels that I enjoyed because of a particular song that gets mentioned. Now, I was gonna ask you this, Age of 70, because Kingpin says something about Daredevil manipulating their minds. Is that a recent thing, or is that something? Because I saw the footnote, but like, is that something from a recent thing, or is that something you know about?
Wait, say again. The footnote. I know what you're talking about. Say it again.
Yeah, the Kingpin says that Daredevil manipulated their minds.
Oh, right, because that's the impetus behind Devil's Reign.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that's the impetus behind Devil's Reign. So, we were gonna kind of talk about these Devil's Reign book kind of in tandem, because I did in fact read the Daredevil Woman Without Fear book this week,
Mm-hmm.
and that is obviously a tie-in to what Chip Zdarsky was working on with Daredevil and with this Devil's Reign mini event, as it were.
So before you get to that point, then let me go ahead and finish up this issue by saying,
Well, no, but I just wanted to set this up, and then you
okay.
can get to, because the point is that just to answer that particular question, so that you can move on, is that setup, right?
Mhm.
Is that and this is a spoiler for anyone who wants to get into Devil's Reign, but ultimately, all the stuff that was happening in Daredevil led to a confrontation with Kingpin, who is currently the mayor of New York City, and uh, the setup is that the Kingpin has been gathering information on lots of people, including heroes and possible uh, uh, clues on secret identities for forever and ever. And when he got to the to the Daredevil file, he couldn't read it, or it was blank, and he knew that there was something amiss. And when he confronted Daredevil about it, basically Daredevil kind of let it slip that something was done to have everyone forget that he was in fact Matt Murdock, and that is the domino that fell, that caused Wilson Fisk to undergo lots of different steps, so that this whole Devil's Reign event is going on. So that's why I wanted to throw that in there, so that Roddykat, so that you can be informed of how this possibly reads with the rest of this book now.
Sure, got it. But yeah, like I said, I've been reading Daredevil, and I've not read Devil's Reign, so I didn't know. I saw that footnote. I was like, okay, I guess that was something recent, so makes sense. But so the fight goes on, and it, I mean, there's a couple of weird couple, because I guess that's like Daredevil's brand new day. But regardless, the fight ends up going, I don't know, I feel like it was a stalemate between them two. But then Kingpin's like, hey, you know what, I sent somebody after your son, basically, and it's a call back to Secret Invasion without spoiling it.
Right. I thought that was a little weird, because I
Right.
was like, wait a second, this character's still around to get a
Exactly.
file for the Kingpin?
Exactly. I'm sitting here like, wait, I thought that character was dead, because I thought they killed that character back then.
That was weird to me.
Right. But apparently, hey, they sucked her away in a place. So I guess it's been so long, nobody even cares or remembers that many people remember. So it was like, hey, yeah, sure, we'll bring this character back some kind of way. So, and that's going to go into the next issue. And you said you wanted to talk about the Woman Without Fear.
Right. So in tandem. So let me pull this up. So Daredevil Woman Without Fear #1 is written by Chip Zdarsky, with art by Rafael De La Torre, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So just give me a quick second, because I want to double check to see how many issues this limit. I know that this is a limited series.
I want to say it's 3.
So I want to see how many issues this is. I'm just jumping over to the previews catalog for this week and double checking. Yep, it is one. This is issue 1 of 3. So this is, as I said earlier, a tie-in to Devil's Reign, and this is Elektra kind of going down memory lane, and just kind of going over the general gist of these Devil's Reign stories, especially from the hero's perspective, is that files that the Kingpin has been keeping on all these heroes, he's making sure they make their way into the hands of certain characters and villains who have a particular bone to pick with these heroes. So we already have a character that is related to Spider-Woman in that Spider-Woman issue, right? Who has a deep tie to Spider-Woman. And in this issue, without spoiling too much, right? We basically have a little trip down memory lane with Elektra as she goes through her history, kind of going over how she met Matt Murdock, what she learned from Stick, how she was drafted into the Hand, and ultimately at the end, after a bunch of kind of twists and turns and red herrings thrown all the way into the book at the end of the issue, what's been teased is that the Kingpin gave the file to a very eager villain, and that villain does not really have much of a connection to Elektra, right? So that's a bit of a curveball. You figure, well, considering the events of the Daredevil book, it's probably not. I don't want to spoil it, but it's probably not who you think it is. If you're not caught up on the Daredevil books. So it was definitely an unexpected villain who ended up drawing the Elektra file as a target.
Okay.
So I'll leave it at that. But
Right,
it was an
it was
interesting kind
definitely-
of walk down memory lane for Elektra as she's kind of thinking back on all, like, basically her entire history up until the point where she meets Matt Murdock.
Right, because I feel like yeah, because just as you were going through that, there was one particular person I was thinking about, and I believe you have mentioned that person may have shown up in her book
In Daredevil.
already. Yeah, so that's interesting that it's not that person.
Definitely not that person. So, when Roddykat flips through this, that's sometimes what we own. That's sometimes all we have time for, folks, is, we'll flip through these books because of the other co-hosts, mentioning it to us, just out of curiosity or just to keep up with a particular event, and we'll flip through it and see, oh, okay, this is what they're talking about. And that's one of the reasons why we try not to spoil every single thing, so that some surprises are left to be still enjoyed by the people who are reading and following along.
Yep.
Alrighty, so that is Daredevil Woman Without Fear #1. We basically have all of these Marvel books in common, like FF and Marauders and Miss Marvel, right?
Mm-hmm. You want to do FF and then go wrap it?
Yeah, we'll do FF. All right. So Fantastic Four #39 is written by Dan Slott, with art by Francesco Manna, colors by Jesus Abertov, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So we pick up on, I guess it's day 2 of this custody hearing that has been initiated by the Wizard. And I'll tell you that this issue, the way it kind of set some characters in a new direction, I think is what the whole point of this was, as opposed to kind of resolving any questions that were brought up. That seemed to be, what I guess the goal was. And ultimately, this custody hearing, bear in mind that She-Hulk is representing the FF here, and for the most part, the hearing goes the way of the in favor of the FF, but there's kind of a twist at the end where it's revealed that not all is as it seems with regards to the Wizard, and the Wizard character that we've seen for probably the
The bulk of his
the recent past, right?
Right.
The Wizards played a role in several books within the last several years.
Right.
He's made a bunch of appearances. Wasn't he in?
He was in that Power Pack book.
Yes, I was gonna say thank you for because I couldn't remember. Like he's in that book where he was siphoning off power from the Power Kids.
And
so,
and Future Foundation. I think he showed up at the end of that.
Right.
So and other places. So yeah.
Right. So interestingly, we get this. Variation on the clone theme that we've seen over in the Spidey books. And all's kind of resolved in a very strange way, but at the same time we have Bentley 23's character evolving in an unforeseen way, if you ask me, but in an interesting way. And I'm with Dragon Man on this.
Yeah, I am too, because I was like, I don't know how to feel about that either, but
yeah. So, that's what I mean when I say that this issue kind of served as, it didn't necessarily answer any questions, but it definitely pushed this particular character in a new direction.
Honestly, these last couple of issues was pretty much a filler arc, or a filler. Basically, it felt like a filler. Not to say it was a bad thing, because sometimes I know some people think there are filler arcs that are bad, but not all filler arcs are meaningless. But
right. Well, I think it's a setup arc, because I think what it is, it's setting up, because Slot's big story is next, right? So he's basically taking at least one of these characters, maybe not off the table, but outside, but putting two of these characters outside of the sphere of influence of the Fantastic Four for now.
Sure.
That's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah.
And putting them off, in another corner of the Marvel universe so that they can develop for another story later on. That's what it seemed like to me. So, because we all know that's one of Slot's, kind of tried and true storytelling mechanisms.
Right. Yeah, he will put something take something off the table and bring it back way later on or something like that. So yeah.
Right.
This is
so that's definitely a Slot thing. And ultimately, we do touch on a little bit on the Human Torch thing, where he's just a overpowered version of himself right now.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say he's pretty much. I mean, obviously his powers come from their powers come from cosmic rays, so he's probably closer to cosmic than the one what he was.
Right. Now he's definitely like an out of control Fire Lord. He's almost like Herald of Galactus level,
basically,
of power right now.
So we'll see how that shakes out going forward. Will they get taken care of in Reckoning War? Who's to say? But we know that's coming up next.
Right. So that's a little FF event that is. Are there going to be tie-in? I think there are tie-in issues.
Yes.
To the Reckoning War. So yeah, it's going to be a little mini event in the FF corner of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, because I think the next book is Reckoning War Alpha, and then I think
Alpha and Omega.
So and then I think it's going to come back into the FF book or something. I think there was something at the end of the issue about it. So, but they definitely did mention the Alpha. So, there was a little part in here with Franklin and the therapy, which they did some things with, but I thought that part was kind of touching, and that probably also is also a setup into what's coming up next. So, at something. But that being said, that's Fantastic Four number 39, and I guess we will be going into not Clicks a Week, Rapid Fire.
All right, let me spin up the minigun.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, allow me to run through these, and I know that Roddykat shares a few of these books. So first up for me is Marauders number 27. It's written by Jerry Duggan with art by Matteo Loli and Phil Noto, with colors by Rain Barreto and Phil Noto. Letters are by VC's Corey Pettit. So this is definitely the last issue of this volume of Marauders, because that is exactly how it reads. We have a couple of vignettes basically in this issue that focus on the current roster of the Marauders and teases the upcoming roster of the Marauders when they relaunch the book in the Destiny of X series of or era of the X-Men. So, we touch on, basically each and every character from Kate Pryde to Iceman to Pyro and Bishop in a funny buddy cop heist comedy thing with cryptocurrency at its heart. And we also catch up with Emma Frost, her feelings on how the Hellfire Club should be run. So there are lots of things here that serve as a setup for the next era of the Marauders.
Yeah, the issue basically feels like, or at least the end of the issue kind of feels like, and I know people of a certain vintage will get this reference, but those before the credit scenes back in the 80s movies where they say, and this person goes on to do this and that and then this other. It kind of felt like that, and as Agent 70 said, yeah, this definitely felt like it was read like it was ending the book was ending, which it is. So, or at least this particular volume is. So
right. It's meant to put characters not necessarily back into the toy box, as it were, but to give them a place, a kind of a clean place for the next creative team to start from. So it's interesting that some of these characters may be reassigned to different books. We're probably going to get a new Marauders team, a new lineup. That is the way of the X-Men corner of the Marvel Universe. So ultimately we'll see where that number one takes us. It's another 2 months away.
Right, and I believe there's an annual coming for them. So I don't know if that's also going to be setting that up, or that's just going to be like a one-off thing. Because I think I saw the cover, and it's like a different group of people.
Right. So we'll see when that comes out. Next up is Ms. Marvel Beyond the Limit number 2. Number 2 is written by Samira Ahmed with art by Andre Genolet, colors by Triona Farrell, and letters by our favorite paisan VC's Joe Caramagna. He's lettered, I think, a bunch of books this week. He did the FF number 39. I did see him on that Bloodstone book as well. So I didn't read it, but I saw him in the credits.
We'll get to that.
But this issue is kind of a direct follow-up to the first issue. We find Kamala Khan in the middle of a fever dream, as it were. She's kind of hallucinating her way through what she thinks is the transformation of Jersey City into a Bollywood extravaganza. And we're kind of brought through a lot of her a lot of the things that she thinks she's seeing, which her brain convinces her is real. And ultimately we find that without beating around the bush, that it may be related to this shadow character that has been, kind of haunting her throughout these first 2 issues. And Kamala's group of friends basically help her deduce that, it's got to be the reason why she's having this rough equivalent of a spider sense attack, a spidey tingle. They make a funny reference to that. And at the end of the issue, we find that Kamala has a couple of things that she's going to have to work out with this shadow person.
Yeah, the only thing I add to this is that at the end of the book, I felt like that I just saw a version of that Spider-Man meme pointing at each other without the actual pointing at each other.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's definitely interesting. And one thing that we have kind of kind of thought about as the result of things that we've learned about the Ms. Marvel Disney Plus show and what they plan to do with her powers there. I think we definitely thought hard about what they might do with Kamala in this little miniseries,
Right.
and I wonder if they're hinting towards that because of the issues that she's having with her powers over the course of these first 2 issues.
I think that is very much the case, and because they make a point of mentioning that her powers have changed even from the onset of them.
Right.
Because they mentioned the fact that she could transfer, she could morph into people, which I don't vaguely remember that happening, but I do remember, like, her with the whole Miss Marvel, or Captain Marvel thing, or Miss Marvel thing, whatever. But they basically they are basically hinting around the fact, like, her powers have changed before, so they very much could again.
Right. So whether or not this is an early reveal of the powers that are going to be portrayed in the Ms. Marvel Disney Plus show or not,
right,
remains to be seen. But it definitely feels like that's been hinted at.
Right. Which I feel like
this is pure conjecture on our part, but
exactly.
we feel like this is this seems to be trending in that direction.
Yeah, which I don't know. If that is the case, and that's where it goes, I don't know how to feel about that, because I kind of like her powers the way they are, but at the same time, like I said, I don't know. And with what they seem to be setting up with the Disney Plus show, from what we have seen, what we've talked about in the past, I'm not sure if I care about that part about it, but it is what it is, because there's ways to do her current powers now, but I guess effects being what they are, like the way they look like they're setting up doesn't seem like the effects it's not going to be less of an effects issue than not. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, we'll see. Exactly. We don't know.
Yeah,
exactly. Because I've read thoughts that maybe it's because they want to differentiate her from Reed Richards, and she was always similar to Reed. She's always going to be similar to Reed, but they always depicted her abilities as being kind of like a mix of, Giant Man and Reed.
Right.
Because that's the whole embiggening thing.
Right.
So,
and the whole polymorph thing, was kind of a differentiation in that situation.
Say again?
I said the whole polymorph. You remember they called her a polymorph for the whole time, but that's not supposed to be like a differentiation between her and his powers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And last for me this week is The Good Asian, number 8. This is number 8 of 10, and it is written by Pornsak Pichachot with art by Alexandra Tefeki, and colors by Lee Luffridge, and letters by Jeff Powell. So this is a 10-issue limited series. So we are in the home stretch, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have been keeping up with The Good Asian. If you haven't, bottom line is this is set in the 1930s. It's 1936, and it is a very odd time for Asian Americans, especially on the mainland here in the United States. And this is very much a noir crime story. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing. This is a limited series that is in the home stretch, as I said, like getting ready to come to a big finish, I hope. And we're following in this issue one of the previously side characters, because the protagonist that we've been following up until now had something very bad happen to him at the end of last issue. And not spoiling anything, but we are following leads that the protagonist had been developing, and the side character steps to the fore of the investigation that is at the core of this kind of crime noir book that is peppered with historical notes, but at the same time is right on the edge of putting these characters into history, as it were. We're definitely just dealing with a particular time and a particular set of circumstances that this story could conceivably happen in. This is definitely a different speed than what we are used to as kind of a superhero centric podcast, but we definitely try our hand at other books. We definitely do our best to try to diversify what we're reading, and I think this has been uh, a nice detour, a diversion, a nice uh, tangent, as it were, for to go down and to go in this direction and give noir a try. After reading this, I feel like maybe I should try some of Brubaker's crime noir stuff, because it's obviously not as period specific. Sometimes this one is very period specific, but at the end of the day, uh, it definitely helps to widen our perspectives and to broaden our perspectives to see how some other comics can be written and how well they can be done. So I think that Good Asian right now is winding up as one of the better non-superhero books that I've tried in the recent past. So for anyone who's looking for something different to read, I would recommend The Good Asian. So and it's almost up. It is in issue number 8. There are only 2 issues left, so there will be a trade collecting these 10 issues coming sooner rather than later, so you can read it all in one shot.
Gotcha.
And that is it for me.
Excuse me. You mentioned Brubaker. I remember talking about one of his books with Steve Epting a few years back on the show. It's not crime noir, but it's like spy. Velvet. Velvet is a pretty good one.
Right.
If you get a chance to read that. So I think I want to say, did it end? I remember it ending, but I don't remember if it like closed, ended, or just ended. But it was pretty good. It was basically, it's like, what if Miss Moneypenny from James Bond was like the best spy the agency had secretly. So but definitely check that out. Anyway, for my rapid fire stuff, we have the book that we thought would never die finally ending, folks. Savage Avengers number 28. It has
I'm sorry,
finally...
I laughed. I hit the laugh track right over Roddykat saying what the book is. Please say it again.
Oh, and that's fine. Savage Avengers number 28. And as you can see, I have it up on the video version. You should check out the video version sometime, by the way, folks. Written by Jerry Duggan, art by Patch Zerker, color artist Java Ohava Tartaglia, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So yeah, like I said, book's over with. It's done. Send everybody home, which it kind of basically did, because the last little tie of this was we see Conan training a young Colin Gath after steering him away from magic. And the crux of the book is pretty much that, and then seeing where Conan ends up thanks to Kang the Conqueror. And that's pretty much it. The only other thing was kind of funny, because it was like during the beginning of the book in Conan's training, Cooling Gath, kind of reminds me of Dragon Ball, the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, where Piccolo's training Gohan.
Okay.
So there's a slight, I feel like a slight nod to that. I don't know if that was intentional or not, or maybe that's just me inferring something that's not there. But if you get a chance to read this, you'll see what I'm talking about. I can guarantee it.
I skimmed, so okay. I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, no, definitely. Well, when after you finish this, I had a comment.
Sure. Okay. I mean, there's not really much else to say. Like I said, we've everybody else had been already put back to where they were. Like I said, we just pretty much find out where Conan lands in this, and apparently, thanks to Marvel's license, he is still in the present day. Spoiler alert, but it's just pretty much setting him to still be where he is, and may still get back to where it is stated for him to be at some point, but I guess we'll find out at some other point in the future.
Right. The one thing I wanted to mention is I thought it was interesting that the whole point of the ending, this coda, as it were, of Savage Avengers is Conan's effort to, or Conan's effort to, not Conan, because Conan is Conan O'Brien. This is Conan the Barbarian, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that Conan is looking to try to redeem Kulan Gath and try to push him in another direction, where Kulan Gath, up until now, had been one of the, like a sorcerer character that had definitely proven to be a thorn in the side of many heroes and has popped up at various times. And it's just interesting that they would try to take him, and obviously all this is comic book world, so it's temporary.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that they would try to kind of do a final solution with him, as it were.
Right. Or a potential final-ish, because who, like you said, it is comics. They could very much,
right,
reverse that.
Right, and it's weird that they would do it using time travel, since we just watched Endgame, and we're all dealing with variants now. So basically, did we just get a variant timeline where Kulan Gath didn't become this powerful wizard? There's just other timelines that have Kulan Gath as a powerful wizard. So
you should mention that, because there is a line in this book that says something in this issue that basically says like something about basically, hey, I approve of this version of you, or something like that, where not to go into what actually happens, but
right.
it mentions a version of him. So yeah, it's interesting that you would say that.
Right, because at the end of the day, I'm not all that attached to the Kulan Gath character, but I distinctly have very strong memories of books that I've read that had him involved in it. Specifically, I remember some crossover issues with X-Men. I was a kid. Romita Jr. was on the book, and the Avengers and Spidey were involved, and it was some really graphic stuff for to read at that age, when I was when it was like super formative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Kurt Busiek and George Perez brought Kulan Gath back into Avengers in their run in the late 90s. So while we haven't seen the character that much, and obviously in this iteration of the character, he was kind of built up to be this, what they call in the movies now, an Avengers level threat.
Right, he's one of the big three. Yes,
exactly. So ultimately, it's weird that they would kind of as I said, attempt this kind of final solution, but at the end of the day, we also know that it's comics, so nothing is ever final.
Right, exactly. And worth noting, like those couple of events that you mentioned, the Avengers run and the X-Men stuff, yeah, all of that kind of got brought up during the run of this book.
Right.
So which, yeah, remember that. So yeah, it's finally done. We're here now. I'm sure they'll collect it in trade. I think Jerry Duggan's hoping for an omnibus, or it's kind of hinted at the end of it, probably going to be an omnibus, or at least hoping for an omnibus of this run. It was pretty good. Like I said, given humble-ish beginnings of this book, and the fact that it lasted longer than we thought it was supposed to. I would say not necessarily it was supposed to, because it came out of an event and figured after that event that was going to be it. But then it ran into a couple of other events, and then those events were over, and then it just kind of took a life of its own after that, up until now. And pretty much kept the same line going through it. So we're finally here, folks, and there it is. Next up, though, I should probably skip a book to something related to that, but we'll get back to that in a moment. The Thing number 3. I think Agent 70 said you probably not. You're off this book already.
Which book?
The Thing number 3.
I read it. Go ahead.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. I didn't see anything.
Right.
Um,
I just didn't type it into my notes because I didn't feel like I needed to recap it. I don't know. I wasn't sure how I felt about it, to be honest.
I got you. Written by Walter Mosley. Yes, the Walter Mosley of Devil in a Blue Dress and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera fame. Art by Tom Riley. Color artist Jody Berlaire. And letters by VC's Joseph Bino. I believe this is 3 of 5, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember at this point. I had to look that up. But, so yeah, after the events of last issue, Ben and his 2 companions have escaped the underground city, and Ben and his new lady friend at this point, because if you remember, folks remember, this is pretty much a / new old story from Ben's past. So this is not like current. This is from, I guess this is through when one of the times where he and Alicia broke up back in the day. And I'm going to assume this is after his own after Secret Wars, especially with what's I think, especially with who shows up in this book. Because if you're looking at the cover, it almost seemed like it. Oh well, no, it doesn't. Let me hush. Regardless, Ben starts to get the picture of something's going on with his 2 companions at the end of this book. But before he gets to that point, he has a rematch with an elder of the universe that he's sparred with in the past. And apparently this elder is here for a reason. To which I love when Ben was like, when he told the said reason, Ben was like, oh, I'm going to bed. Like, I'm not dealing with this. But and apparently this elder knows who Ben's companions are, or at least seems to be the case. And at the end of this issue, Ben's kind of starting to put 2 and 2 together and getting the audience pretty much knew that, like, so there was something more that these two people than we knew.
Right. And thanks to surveillance in the Baxter building.
Exactly. Ben has kind of gotten starting to getting a bigger picture of what's going on here as he talks to Reed at the outset of this issue. So we'll see where this ends up, and what's because that has been the big curiosity of, like, who are these people that have shown up in Ben's life at this point, and whether it's going to be people that we know just in a different form or some new characters that they brought up for some odd reason. We'll see. Let's see. Next up, I Am Batman number 5. Which, speaking of books that read like they were ending, this one kind of did, but it's not. Let's see. Written by John Ridley, art by Kristen Deuce and Juan Ferreira, excuse me, and Laura Braga. Colors by Rex Locus, and letters by ALW's Troy Pateri. The crux of this issue is Jace is escaping from this Talos troopers that he's been fighting, while Lucius Fox is kind of looking on, because there's this other guy, that's been using his tech for these troopers. But the takeaway from this issue is that one, Jace's sister comes out of her coma. We find out what's going on. We find out that she still has more healing to do. Lucius finds out Jace's secret identity through this thing, and we also find out how Jace leaves, or what's the reason Jace is leaving Gotham, because as we know, Batman is leaving Gotham and leaving it to the rest of the Bat family. That includes Jace. Well, excuse me, let me phrase that. Batman Bruce Wayne and Batman Jace both left Gotham to kind of make way for whatever's going on with the rest of the Bat family and this whatever storylines that they're doing with that. So this kind of has him leaving Gotham just like Bruce did, I believe, last week? Was it last week?
No, it's been in the last few weeks. Okay. It's been like, he's only a little bit behind, because if you recall, I've talked about Bruce being in that awful Southeast Asian country of Indonesia
Okay,
a
yeah, that
couple
was
times
India,
already.
right? Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so he's left Gotham, at least in the main Batman book, for a couple of issues now.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, Jace is just now catching up to Jace's story is just now catching up to the two current Batmen leaving Gotham.
Gotcha. Right. So, and that's like I said, that's pretty much just this. And the next issue is, I'm assuming, is probably going to set them up where he's going to be, which is in New York.
Right. I mean, that's already hinted in the last panel. I flipped through this very quickly.
Oh yeah, totally. No, it's sort of, and we know from solicit and other stuff that he was going to be in New York. So this is not like, I mean, obviously, if you don't read solicits or whatever the case may be, you won't know this part. But this has come up in other places that this was going to be a thing that's happened because of this other storyline going through, and that's that. Star Wars number 20. Which there was a couple of Star Wars books this week. This was the only one I had a chance to read because Bounty Hunters came out and a couple of High Republic books came out, but I hadn't had a chance to check those out. And the reason why I'm mentioning High Republic stuff is because, well, uh, this book that was written by Charles Soule, art by Marco Castillo, colors by Rachelle Rosenberg, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles, has a High Republic character show up in it, or rather, the imprint of a High Republic character. Which I still need to catch up on some of that stuff because there's been a lot of High Republic books that come out, whether in novel form or comic form. So I believe this character came out in Charles Soule's novel, Light of the Jedi, if I'm not mistaken, and probably has been in the High Republic comic book at this point, but I'm not sure about that because, like I said, I haven't caught up. But I will at some point. Regardless, Luke ends up going. Luke ends up getting frustrated because the holocron, or at least so he thought, was pretty much reviewing information that he already know. But comes to find out that that's not the case, and it gives him a clue to this other Jedi planet to where he um, ends up coming across the imprint of this High Republic character, and they chop it up for a good while, and then Luke gets sent off. Luke leaves and gets sent off with a parting gift of a book, which he's going to, I'm sure, be perusing through in the next few issues. I am very certain. So it was like I said, I don't know too much about this character because this is my first time seeing him, but I do, outside of the fact that I know where this character's come from, after doing a little bit of research. Yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up on some of that stuff because that stuff's been kind of interesting. And like I said, Luke's been sent off on another thing, and it looks like they're cutting back to something else in the next issue, but we'll see that when we get there. Last book is Death of Doctor Strange, Bloodstone #1, which is revolving around the characters of Elsa Bloodstone and her brother Cullen, and their kind of contentious relationship, but also introduces the new Bloodstone character. Again, I feel like we've talked about this in news. And actually, let me get to the creative team. Writer Tini Howard, art by Ed Guara, colors by Dijo Lima, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So yeah, like I said, the crux of this book is the introduction of this new Bloodstone character, who is a little different from the other two Bloodstones because of their journey basically, and even down to their trademark gem in their chest that is different from the other two Bloodstones, and obviously because of the death of Doctor Strange was I guess a pretty decent entryway to this character to come in based on the way they set it up. And it seems like they are setting up they may be setting up this character to get to go into another book that we know of. I'm going to assume at the end of this book was going to put her in another Doctor Strange tied book, and maybe even into a bigger role if solicitors or whatnot are to be believed, but we don't know that for certain. But regardless, like I said, this is that's pretty much the gist of that. Without going into too much of it, yeah, we'll see what happens with this new character and the Bloodstones going forward with what they have set up here. And with that, that is my books, and we can go to clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week.
We did get one click from Tim, which was Dark Ages number 4, which is another book I haven't been reading. But
yeah, there's two more. There's two more of them. It's Dark Age. This is number 4 of 6.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and it's basically like, hey, Marvel characters in medieval times. That's very. I don't remember the conceit of this book outside of that. But I'm not sure. Do you have yours?
yeah, I had a kind of uneven week this week reading a lot of the Marvel books that I had. I thought Daredevil Woman Without Fear was pretty solid for a Devil's Reign tie-in. I thought that, you know, even though it was a little all over the place, that FF number 39 wasn't bad. But I think I'm going to go with The Good Asian number 8.
Okay. You've been solid on that book the whole time you've been reading it, so that's cool. So I'll pop that up right there. And I think for mine, actually it's probably fairly simple. Spider-Woman number 18. I go with that. That was a fun read this week. Despite the Devil's Reign tie-in, that the part that may or may not have been missed on me because of that, the book was still a good fun read. And that being the case, we can move on to the news section, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. So place your first order with $30 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Whoa. Okay, cinematic news, folks. We start off with. Oh, nice. Cowboy Bebop Netflix renewal petition blows past 100K signatures. I believe I've seen somebody online asking if petitions do work. Folks, we got the Snyder Cut. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's true enough.
Yeah, you know, regardless of how we feel about petitions, sometimes those stupid things work. Next up.
Alrighty, Wonder Woman's Gal Gadot shares update on the third film. So she shared an update on when filming might get underway on Wonder Woman 3. When asked by InStyle about the status of the third film in the DCEU franchise, Gadot said, "We're developing the script right now. We'll probably start in a year and a half or so. Warner Brothers fast-tracked a third Wonder Woman movie in December 2020, immediately following the release of Wonder Woman 1984. That can't have been the case because that can't be because everyone loved Wonder Woman 1984.
Oh, the digs, the digs.
Shots fired. You people who are listening and watching know when I am taking a very, very obvious shot. So,
wow, that movie. Next up, James Gunn delivering second DC TV series to follow Peacemaker, apparently. Which I guess we could take this time to say that, hey, Peacemaker is out there. There are 3 separate episodes on HBO Max. Actually, 4 probably at this point.
really?
I think, but yeah, because I think they come out on Thursdays. I don't know if there's one. I could have sworn there might have been one. It might be next Thursday, but I believe Thursdays are when new episodes are coming out.
Right, but wasn't this the opening weekend?
That's what I'm saying. It was the
opening
first.
of it?
Yeah, it was the first of 3. So I don't know if I don't think there's going to be another one. I thought.
Right. I think they released 3 episodes.
Right.
So I actually burned through them today in 2 sittings, and they were interesting and not for kids. I repeat, not for kids.
That is very much the truth. Yeah, there are some adult situations in that camp. So yeah, don't bring the little jimmies and the jimmies.
The little jimmies.
To this one, I watched first episode. I love me some Danielle Brooks, so I'm kind of there for that one. I'm not crazy about Cena. I just wanted to check it out. I may go through the rest of them. There's something there, but I'm not real. I don't know. I'm not real big.
Right. And you definitely and Roddykat agreed with me when I said this. You can definitely see James Gunn's fingerprints all over this show.
Every bit of it, for certain. They're just like go nuts. They basically told him just go nuts with it, and it seemed like that's the case.
Right. And he doesn't necessarily have, continuity to deal with. He does, connect this the first episode to the events of the Suicide Squad movie. So,
yes,
but beyond that, they're off in their own corner of the DCEU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's definitely a couple of ties to that there.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So
next up.
next
before you go on, let me go ahead and mention this. Naomi also started this week. That comes out on Tuesdays. So on the CW. It's on the CW app and CW Seed if you're interested.
I called it the WB earlier.
Yeah,
before the show. That was a brain fart.
And same difference. It doesn't matter. The CWWB is just the same thing. But yeah, that's out there. I watched the first episode of that. It is definitely a CW-ish show. And as a person who is familiar-ish with the with the character, but have not read the miniseries that it's read off of, again, there's a CW, there's a whole CW Buffy Scooby Gang theme that seems like they're starting off with. But I guess we'll see as it goes forward. Now we can move on to the next one.
Award-winning comic book writer Ed Brubacher has joined the staff of the upcoming animated series Batman Caped Crusader. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Brubacher is attached as head writer and executive producer on the series. Alongside Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, and Matt Reeves, as well as co-producer James Tucker. So that is a pretty stacked lineup in terms of writers who have, I think, a really interesting, or at least a very strong take on what Batman is, because Brubacher has had long comic runs. Tim obviously has, his take on the animated Batman, and Matt Reeves has done a Batman movie, and JJ is JJ.
Yes. Brubacher also did the GCPD book, which from what I remember reading was actually pretty good. Or at least I think he started on. I think somebody else took over it, but regardless, some good stuff. And I feel like they've shorted Brubacher in the past on this live action, but then again, they've shorted a lot of people on this live action things with credit wise. So it's good that he's getting something here at least. So yeah, I never knew what I felt about this thing going into it, outside of the fact that hey, the Bruce Timm was involved with it. So this is kind of up in that, you know. So I guess this is going to be like a animated series plus.
Right.
So hey, we'll see. Next up though, Netflix gives Sandman the TVMA rating for language, violence, and sex. So yeah, the Sandman is still happening, I guess, and it's going to be TVMA. Which, does that mean anything at this point in time? Probably not so much, but uh, so far as maybe not bring the kids into this one also. Outside of that, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Sandman or what happens happens in those books, but it is what it is. Next.
Next up, so spoiler alert, Star Trek Prodigy delivers its own epic No Way Home moment. So I don't think Roddykat has watched No Way Home yet.
Nope.
So I'm going to ask him to go la 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 while we go through the Star Trek Prodigy story.
Or you
All right, so Star Trek Prodigy returned from its mid-season break with a surprise crossover, and basically, I'm not going to go through all this, but basically, it's a surprise crossover with lots of characters from different Treks.
Of course, which not a surprise there, given what it was saying. Like even I know that much. So, that was a weird buzzing I just heard, and I was like, damn, I almost felt like Naomi for a second. She-Hulk photo reveals Tatiana Maslany's mocap Hulk face, apparently. So yeah, let's see. Marvel fans have gotten another look at She-Hulk's Tatiana Maslany as the Jade Giantess, sort of. One of She-Hulk's cast members, Ginger Gonzaga, posted an Instagram story of Maslany wearing a green-skinned, black-eyed face above her actual face, adorned with the mocap equipment for an unknown scene. Gonzaga dubbed the post a shout out to Jin Hulk, as we nicknamed her. This is what Tatiana Maslany has to hold on top of her head when she's shocky. And if you're watching the video version, you can see the Instagram post right there. So yeah, there you go. Next
Next
like
up,
crash test dummies. But anyway, next.
What's that?
I said, looks like one of those crash test dummies faces.
Okay. Next up, Marvel taps Daredevil and Punisher writers for Disney Plus's Echo series. So, talent from a handful of canceled Marvel Netflix series is going to be joining the crew of Echo, as the writers behind key episodes of Daredevil and the Punisher have been tapped to work on the upcoming Disney Plus show. Writers Dara Resnick and Ken Christensen are set to bring their experience writing street-level superheroes to the scripts of Echo, according to the Illumin Nerdy. Resnick wrote 2 episodes for season 3 of Daredevil, and Christensen wrote 3 episodes of The Punisher. And they'll be joining the writing staff that includes Shoshana Stern, Bobby Wilson, and lead writer Marion Dairy. So it's a pretty diverse group with different shows, with a history of working on different shows.
And as Eagly would say, squaw.
Oh my god.
That's a piece.
That was Roddykat making a Peacemaker reference.
Yes, it is. X-Men the animated series' Wolverine celebrates returning to the Disney Plus revival. So Cal Dodd is officially back in the booth for Disney Plus's upcoming revival of X-Men 97. Snicked bub. On Twitter, Dodd, who as I said, voiced Wolverine, shares a photo of himself in a recording booth. Dodd is seen sporting a black and yellow varsity style jacket, which has the name Logan embroidered on the torso. and puts up 3 fingers to represent Wolvie's claws. And with the caption, guess what I'm doing in the studio today? So great to be back. Hashtag Wolverine, hashtag Disney Plus, hashtag X-Men, etc., etc., etc. And you can see the Twitter post right there if you're watching the video version. Watch the video version sometimes. Next up.
So Marvel's Halloween special adds the Nevers star in a possible major vampire role. So, according to Deadline, the Nevers star Laura Donnelly has joined the upcoming Halloween special, and has joined the show alongside Gail Garcia Bernal, who is potentially playing a version of Werewolf by Night. So Deadline speculates that if Garcia Bernal's role holds true, Donnelly may be playing Nina Price, aka Vampire by Night. In the comics, Price is a vampire/werewolf hybrid and the niece of Jack Russell, not the terrier, Werewolf by Night. Yes, that is the second bad pun of tonight.
Ice Bear says boo. Spider-Man 8 film bundle collects every Maguire, Garfield, and Holland film together thanks to Voodoo. So yeah, Voodoo, which is well, you can rent, you can buy digital copies, but you can also if you're still one of those few people that buys physical versions, you can use the code inside the box and redeem the digital code for a movie on this site, as well as a couple others. But yeah, they have a bundle coming, or like it might be out right now, which collects all of the Spider-Man movies, including the one that hasn't been laid to video yet, which would be No Way Home. So yeah, all 3 Tobey Maguires, all 2 Andrew Garfield, and the aforementioned Tom Holland ones. Looks like the collection retails for $60, which actually is not bad. Actually, doesn't sound for all of those. Because like I said, when No Way Home comes out on video, you'll get that when it happens. So, yeah, that's pretty much that. There's nothing else to say about that. Next
up, Agbo, the artist-led independent banner led by Avengers Endgame directors Anthony and Joe Russo, has received a $400 million minority investment from Nexon Company, the Japanese video game maker. The deal, which values Agbo at $1.1 billion, has Nexon taking a 38% stake in the company, which will accelerate the global expansion of Nexon's existing and new franchise intellectual property into film and TV, and fuel Agbo as it develops, produces, and owns tentpole-led entertainment universes, reaching global audiences via games and virtual world experiences. Look at what the Russos have made as the result of jumping on to direct Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
I know, right? I would also take this point to point out that their Agbo produced a series, Slugfest, which I believe we have talked about in the past, is on the Roku channel, that you can watch on the Roku channel and probably other places. I'm sure you're resourceful enough you can find. You can find it. It's pretty good. You should check it out. But I guess good for them. I was like, Nexon's also in that lineup for pretty much be one of the ones to take over the world and buy out everything. So up there with Tencent and whatever those other couple of places are right now. Anyway, good for the Russos though. Scott Pilgrim anime adaptation is reportedly in development for Netflix. So according to the report from the Hollywood Reporter, the adaptation doesn't have a series order yet, and there aren't any details about when it could hit the streaming service. Brian Lee O'Malley, who created Scott Pilgrim, and one of the writers and executives on the adaptation, I guess was talking to Hollywood Reporter. It says here that Edgar Wright, who directed the film Scott Pilgrim versus the World, will also reportedly be serving as an executive producer. So if the series gets a green light, animation will be done by the animation studio Science Saru, which produced 2 shorts for Star Wars Visions anime anthology released in September. So, yeah, Scott Pilgrim versus the World's a good movie, despite the kind of despite the main character. But yeah, if that happens, I'll check it out. Next up,
one of the animes that Roddykat abandoned way too early. Attack on Titan, the final season, part 2 premiere crashed Crunchyroll. So this happened this past Sunday when the new episode premiered stateside, and it promptly crashed Crunchyroll, the streaming service, due to an overwhelming amount of traffic. Briefly, when users tried to access Attack on Titan on Crunchyroll, they were met with an error page and the message, quote, "We are sorry, a team of shinobi is working to bring your anime back. Thank you for your patience." This error caused many fans of the anime to share their frustrations on Twitter, posting memes, GIFs, and images from the anime. So, I subscribe to Funimation, and I can say that Funimation was also dealing with a slowdown. I actually was not online when the show first became available, despite the fact that some of my anime fan friends jumped on our group chat and started a watch party. Right, I was like, "Hey, I'm in the city. I'm in transit, so I can't I can't jump on and watch." So I didn't watch until a few hours later when I got home, and Funimation was still laggy because people, I guess, were still trying to catch up on the part 2 of the final season of Attack on Titan. So
I want a group chat where I could talk anime with people. Anyway,
yeah, no, it's like a group video call through like Instagram.
Right. Wait, y'all don't use Discord?
This is what I was. This is what I was given.
Okay, I'm surprised. Most people.
It's like it's a DM. It's a DM. Whatchamacallit, chat thread.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, I'm just like, I know there are people doing that through Discord at this point. But then again, I guess that's probably a little bit more heavy-handed than probably y'all would use. This is not. We're not sponsored by Discord. Just putting that. I'm just saying that.
Right, nor Instagram.
Nor Instagram, exactly. So, I guess just out of curiosity, how was the episode?
It was. There are definitely some. Whatchamacallit. Follow-ups on some of the cliffhangers from the previous, where the last episode left us. So nothing final yet because it is just the first episode. There's still no word as to how many episodes are going to be in this part 2. Right. So, it's tough to kind of gauge how the story's going at this point until we have an idea of how many episodes are going to be.
I thought I heard 12, but I don't know. I have no basis for that. So yeah, who even knows at this point? So I guess we'll see, or you'll see.
Yeah. Well, I would still ask Roddykat to give it a shot. I know that there are current animes that are. It's funny, just and I won't linger on this topic too long, but just before we started the show, I had just started watching like an episode or 2 of Haikyuu, the volleyball anime, which I'm a gigantic fan of. It is, it has earned that title of being the best sports anime out there in my eyes, because it's granted it's the only sports anime I've watched, but I think it's going to set a very high bar for any sports anime I try to watch after. I know that Demon Slayer is also back with new episodes,
and I didn't get to watch the last episode. So
right.
I might end up waiting until this Sunday and watching both of them, or I might pop it off. Who knows?
Gotcha. So, I know that there are new things to keep up with. So, I don't blame Roddykat for maybe not wanting to dive into something else that's new, but at the same, something new that has like a decent history to it. But at the same time, it'll go pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's only 4 seasons worth. So,
I don't binge like no like some of you folks, so it would take me just slight longer. That last scent with Demon Slayer aside, that's not usually how it goes for me.
right.
So
So anyway, moving on.
moving on. Let's see. Boop. The Boys season 3 will premiere in June. According to some video, I guess. Let's see. Boys season 3 will premiere its first 3 episodes worldwide on Prime Video on June 3rd, 2022, with the remaining 5 episodes airing every Friday through July 8th. The release date for the season 3 was announced during the final installment of the Voight News Network's digital video miniseries 7 on 7 with Cameron Coleman, which I assume that's a in-universe thing, which was designed to help bridge the gap between season 2 and the upcoming season 3. Following on then the explosive action of the last season finale back in October 2020. Wow, it's been that long? Huh, weird. I've never watched that show, so it goes into, this article kind of goes into what happened at the end of season 2. We're not even going to bother. Next up.
So this is kind of a disappointing story to hear, when I first read about it and heard about it. So comic book artist William Crabtree accuses an Invincible creator Robert Kirkman of fraud, breach of contract, and more over the adaptation of Invincible into a Amazon Prime Video animated series. So basically, the claim is that Kirkman convinced William Crabtree to forego his copyright. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Crabtree's lawsuit blames his surrendered Invincible ownership stake on Kirkman's misleading persuasion. Crabtree further affirms that he co-created the Invincible comic book series due to his role as a colorist for the first 50 issues, meaning he should see profits from Prime Video's popular Invincible television adaptation. Quote, fraud and deceit has become a standard business practice for Kirkman and is apparently where his true creative aptitude lies, unquote, attorney Devin McCrae said. So apparently this ownership stems from a purported oral agreement between Crabtree and Kirkman. It's kind of weird
That we're just that is now.
Well, that, and also, what right does a colorist have?
Therein lies the question, right?
Because this is, I'm looking at this from the comic book fan's perspective. Forget the lawyer perspective. I'm like, what interest does he have as the colorist?
I mean, some would argue that the whole creative team that started it off can't lay that claim down to lettering, but that would be subject to whoever you talk to on that one. Like obviously there are people who think it's just, as you already know, it's the artist and the artist and the writer,
right?
And now, depending on where you fall and where the colors lies in that as being the artist, part of the artist, or whatnot, I don't know. It's weird. It's very weird. Like
because there is press. Oh, go ahead. Finish.
No, I was gonna agree with you and say, I was like, yeah, like what does the colorist, outside of that, like what does the colorist have to do? Not what it has to do with that, but what right do they have to claim to that? But at the same time, like I said, it depends on where you think about it, them as being part of the artist, part of the creative team.
Right, and I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely a fair assessment, especially given how colorists and the roles that they're playing in being color artists now, I think is subtly changing in the comic book business and the comic book industry. There's obviously a little bit of precedent where artist Tony Moore sued Kirkman over allegedly tricking him out of Tony Moore's Walking Dead ownership interest. That lawsuit was settled out of court on undisclosed terms. So you know, there is some precedent for this, but again, I guess it's just, you know, I have not yet evolved to see where the colorist would have some level of ownership over this creation.
Right. And as much as I hate to say it, as long as comic books have been around and comic book movies at this point, like we're still kind of in early days of that kind of stuff. Because let's face it, you know, sometimes the artist and the writer don't always get full credit for stuff that gets on live action. So obviously, this is not one of those cases.
Right. This is one of those like real creator owned, so you know, it's all very much laid out as to who is responsible for what, and it's in like this new, you know, in the current times of who owns what, you know. So it's just a little, you know, because a lot of this stuff is about whether or not there should have been something on paper, and it's very much fact based. And you know, I guess that's just the comic book fan in me trying to come up with where, you know, the nexus of this ownership interest, you know, is created. Like where does that come in?
Right. I'm sure as the lawyer part of you would agree in the statement in that it should always be on paper.
Oh yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, of course. But at the end of the day, you know, if they have enough evidence of, you know, of something, you know, then, you know, they could come up with you know, something legally recognizable, you know. So
Right.
I don't know. You know, it's you know, it's going to be a very fact specific case, but ultimately, uh, you know, you know, we're all evolving. Our understanding of the creative process is evolving. Like, you know, just like our concepts are, you know, legal concepts of many things are evolving, right?
Yep.
So, you know, maybe the colorist, maybe their argument is that the colorist had, you know, enough of an input creatively, especially in the color scheme of the hero and of the character and of the characters, the multiple characters. You know, we don't, you know, that's also very fact based.
Right.
You know, we don't know if it's just uh you know, someone literally coloring within the lines, or if the colorist had like an actual creative hand in the creation of the color palette and the color schemes of some of these characters.
Right. Is it like did either Kirkman or who was the original artist? Was it I can't remember who the original artist of was, but regardless, whether one of them said, "Hey, color it this way with this colors and this is how we want it," type
Right.
situation, or whether the colors came in and said, "Well, how about let's do this," and
Right.
then
And kind of created like a color guide for like the
right,
entire book.
right. So we don't know, and I'm actually kind of curious because we talked about last week. So we can move on past this. We talked about the fact that season 2 has not been started on yet. I'm wondering if this is part of the reason why.
Mm.
Like coincidence. I mean, it may or may not have been a coincidence that this happened now.
Right.
Although some would argue, like, we're just hearing about this for one reason or another for whatever odd reason we don't know. So, regardless, we
I
can move
mean,
on
you
to
know,
something else.
we're probably just hearing about it now is because they were probably trying to come to an agreement and they couldn't do it. You know, they just couldn't come to one.
Right. Exactly. So, whatever reason it might be, here we are now. Whether that has anything to do with why season 2, you know, hasn't happened yet, we don't know yet,
Right.
or may not ever know. Anywho, last but not least, what if this was me? Bob's Burgers movie drops a flame broiled first trailer. I've never watched the show, but for some strange reason, I end up watching this trailer.
Okay.
So yeah, so apparently it premiered during college football playoff national championships on ESPN. It's a 1.5 minute long clip. Um, to which I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was actually a burger commercial, or like a Burger King commercial or something when I first saw it, because it kind of
Oh
came on,
no.
because that's kind of how it started. Um, and actually made me hungry for a burger. So good, you did one thing right, commercial. So, but then it goes into Bob's Burger stuff, and yeah, so it's that.
Wait, is it live action or is it
No,
animated?
it's animated.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there was probably going to be animated. I mean, a live action one at some point.
That's funny.
Um, But yeah, it's out there, folks. If you're interested. So, and that's it for the cinematic news. We're gonna push over into the comic book news. First up, Batwoman Beyond debuts at McFarlane Toys with unmasked figure. So yeah, there's a unmasked Batwoman figure which is going to retail for $20. It is designed with quote unquote ultra articulation with up to 22 moving parts for full range and posing and play, excuse me, and includes alternate hands, 2 blasters, a batarang base, and a collectible art card that features Elena's biography on the back. I did not know there was a Batwoman Beyond, so this is news to me in a couple of different ways. So, and then this article kind of goes into that, I guess. But yeah, there you go. It'll be out there at some point. Next up.
Sorry, I was just looking something up because I wanted to make sure. Oh yeah, I am right. This is so silly. All right. So next up, a Black Adam toy listing confirms a major DCEU villain's debut. Now, major I think is a little bit of hyperbole. A toy listing from McFarlane Toys seemingly confirms the DCEU debut of a new super villain in Black Adam, judging from what McFarlane Toys appears to have in store. I don't know if you have this in the news. I didn't scan down, but Toy Fair has been canceled again this year.
No, I did not.
So we'll probably talk about it. I mean, we're talking about it now because we're probably going to start seeing toy stories start to kind of hit the news wire over the next several months, as opposed to, you know, them coming out all at once the way they would for Toy Fair. So, you know, this is obviously because of the Omicron variant raging through the Northeast right now. But ultimately, this toy listing from McFarlane Toys that was recently circulated seemingly confirms the appearance of the DC Comics supervillain known as Sabak, not the Star Wars card game, in the upcoming Black Adam film. They're just spelled differently, folks. That's what I was Googling just before. That was that slight delay right before I started talking about this story. I wanted to confirm that Sabak was actually both this DC Comics supervillain and the Star Wars card game.
Very good. Very good. Nice. So we do our
So
sometimes.
yeah, I mean, you know, just because, you know, well, because at the end of the day, sometimes we don't know which news stories we're going to be reading, even though we kind of have a set order of who leads off.
Right.
Sometimes that changes because, you know, we'll ask another host to read it because it's their, you know, kind of, it's in their wheelhouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this case, I'm like, wait, I know this name, I know this word, but in a different context. But at the end of the day, this is a DC Comics supervillain that's going to be given a mega fig action figure. So it's going to be larger than the rest of the characters in the Black Adam figure collection. It's not a Build-A-Figure. It's just going to be a larger figure. And these figures that are tentatively due in June 2022 include a Black Adam ancient costume, a Black Adam hero costume, an Atom Smasher figure, an Atom Smasher mega fig, a Dr. Fate, a Cyclone, a Hawkman, and a Sabak mega fig that's not going to be a stack of cards.
Yes. Indeed. And Atom Smasher is not that Captain America villain, by the way.
Oh, not Flag Smasher. Right. Atom Smasher is someone totally different.
Right. You know, Atom Smasher is like the DC's Giant Man, I guess, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not that familiar. You know, you got me on that one.
I don't know. I might be wrong also. So who cares? Regardless, it's there. Oh, speaking of two things, there was a Thanagarian that does show up in the first episode of Naomi. Spoilers, sorry. But also, I've recently just watched the Shazam movie, the first Shazam movie. It was fun.
Oh, what do you think?
It was fun. Yeah. I don't know. Still seeing Chuck as a Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, that was still kind of weird. But yeah, the movie was fun. I'm actually kind of curious to see the next one when it pops off. Also, they could have probably done a little bit more to mention Black Adam for some certain reason. I feel like there was like a throwaway line and that was it. Not that it had to, but I'm just saying, especially since Dwayne apparently the Rocket was the product was producing behind that one. I'm saying like you would think there would have been a little bit more to it, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, what I would say is, I think that Black Adam movie was still in such a nebulous place that they're just not as coordinated as Marvel.
yeah, you're right.
They just don't. So, and I think the best thing about the about the Shazam movie was the actress that played Mary Marvel.
Mary Marvel, yeah.
Yeah, that was the best part.
Mm-hmm. Who I guess she's going to be playing both Mary and Mary Marvel in the next one, I guess, so they don't have to change them. Well, yeah, I would say seeing Making Good as one of the Marvel family was also pretty good, also personally. But yeah,
Right. I'm actually just looking up Atom Smasher now to double check what this dude's powers are.
Mm-hmm.
Already super strong at his normal size, blah, blah, blah. Atom Smasher's strength and density increase proportionally to whatever size he chooses. So yeah, so he just gets up to, so he's kind of like Giant Man. Yeah.
So.
All right.
Cool. And I will put the Toy Fair being canceled. We kind of talked about it. I will put that in the show notes. And if you're watching the video version, you have seen.
You found a story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went to the Post. Or at least that was the first one that came up anyway.
Wait, which Post?
New York Post.
No, don't post from the New York Post.
Okay. Well, find me another link then.
I will. And that's a little bit of politics entering into the.
Yeah, I know, and I know there's there are reasons people don't like the Post, and I get that, but it was the first one that came up, so.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, I will go on to the next story. Boba Fett blaster rifle gets limited edition Nerf treatment. So, following the debut on the Book of Boba Fett, Nerf LMTD announces their latest limited edition blaster rifle from the Star Wars franchise. The iconic EE3 blaster is being brought to Nerf Life and is available for pre-order on Hasbro Pulse and Amazon. Scheduled to be released in spring of 2023. If you're watching the video version, you can see said blaster, picture of said blaster right there. As a matter of fact, here's another version in packaging. So there you go. And the back of the packages. Get all the goodness. Oh, yeah. Anyway, next up.
All right, next up, Marvel's Midnight Suns. Michael Jai White is set to voice Blade. So news out of 2K and Firaxis Games about Marvel's Midnight Suns has been relatively quiet since it lost its March 2022 release window late last year. But a new interview would appear to have revealed the very first voice actor for one of the game's important characters. It is known that the video game will feature playable Marvel characters like Wolverine, Magic, Ghost Rider, and more. And if the voice actor for Blade is any indication, none other than Michael Jai White, the voice cast should likely be just as impressive. Okay.
Yeah, sure. They got Black Dynamite to play Blade. That makes total sense to me. Next up, though, Marvel mutants explore their very own planet in X-Men Red. As folks may know, the Marvel's mutants has a home on Araco, aka Mars. There has been some encroachment as of recent comic books, thanks to a human, but things still stand. It says here that X-Men Red will see a new war waged between mutants as the divided inhabitants of the Red Planet battle for the world's uncertain future. This is I feel like this has kind of been teased in also issues of probably Sword and other things, if I remember correctly. But it's going to be written by Motorhawk writer, I like how he's still being called an Immortal Hulk writer. But Al Ewing, with artwork by Stefano Cancelli, and each issue will explore a different question concerning the fate of Rocco's residents. And it kind of goes into what the first couple of issues are going to be dealing with. And I guess we can see, I don't know if I want to call this a team, but we can definitely see the major players on the cover here, it looks like. So, if you're watching the video, or if you're not watching the video, you can see, well, you can't see, but Magneto, Storm, Sunspot, and Abigail Brand is up in the silhouetted form. Or not silhouetted form, up in the background. So, and I guess this is issue 2 for this other character. Is that Inferno? I don't know who this other character is. No, that's not Inferno. Inferno's. You know what? It doesn't matter. Regardless, that's that. Next up.
I was about to say, you need me to look at it? Let me see. Well, while I read the next one.
Okay.
So, Marvel Comics has launched the second X-Men election, allowing fans to choose the team's newest member from a roster of heroic candidates. So the X-Men election that happened in 2021 was Marvel giving a choice of essentially C and D list mutants who'd get their moment in the spotlight. And Polaris won the first X-Men election. I don't know if you'd call her a C or D list mutant, maybe a B list mutant. But now we have the second X-Men election, and among the candidates are Armor, Avalanche, Bling, Firestar, who I voted for.
I would vote
Gentle. What's that?
I would definitely vote for her.
Right. Gentle, Gorgon, Micromax, Penance, and Siren and Surge. So I voted for Firestar. The voting is actually now closed. All right, so it was open on Marvel.com from January 10th to 13th. So we just closed off January 13th. So we're a little late announcing this, but hopefully you folks out there in the podcast and YouTube stream in the streaming world, the video streaming world, on Twitch as well, voted for Firestar, or at least your favorite candidate to fill the next X-Men roster.
Some comic creator, I can't remember who it was, so I can't really attribute, made a compelling reason to pick Firestar, but those of us of a certain vintage knows Firestar for being an amazing friend, and was probably going to vote for her anyway.
Right.
So
I mean, she has been an Avenger, right?
She has.
So, but I don't think she's ever actually been an official X-Man.
I feel like she definitely has been in an X book and on working with a team, but you're probably right. Not officially as a team member. We both might be wrong about that, I feel like, but yeah, as far as the X-Men proper team, like it might have been an offshoot team or something, like, or Gold or something. Right. I don't know, but yeah, I don't recall that being the case either. So,
I'm looking at that cover for X-Men Red that you were talking about, right, with Storm with her new getup,
right,
and the character who's kind of on fire.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like Vulcan, the third Summers brother.
Oh, okay. So I guess they put him in a new costume because the one he's got on in the Quiet Council is different from that.
No, that's I think that's his regular costume, because they just released a Marvel Legends of him, or they're about to release one, mm-hmm, and he's wearing that costume.
But yeah, I'm thinking about when he's on the Quiet Council.
Vulcan?
I think. Am I tripping on that too? Or
I don't think he is on the Quiet Council.
You know what?
To the Googles.
Exactly.
All right. I was about to say, let me cover for this and give you some time to look, and I will take the next story. So, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Gwen, Silver Surfer, Brute Force highlight the Marvel 2022 Infinity Comics preview. On December 29th, Marvel Comics released Timeless #1, its latest one-shot special that serves as something of a narrative introduction / teaser to many of its big 2022 storylines and events, including the major summer Avengers X-Men Eternals showdown called Judgment Day. 1 week later, on January 5th, the publisher released a somewhat similar concept, in this case for its vertical format digital Infinity Comics imprint on its Marvel Unlimited digital platform. I admit I am not keeping up with these Infinity Comics. How about you?
I've actually read a couple recently, but I think I finished that X-Men one, then the Shang-Chi one, and I was trying to find that Fantastic Four one that they do. So I have read a couple recently, but only when I was like, oh, I got some time to kill.
Yeah, I was about to say, I maybe need to sit down with some of these. So,
Yeah,
called Infinite Possibilities #1, it's a quote sneak peek at the future of Marvel Unlimited, unquote, by artist and former guest of the pod, Giaffo, and colorist D. Cunniffe. So, shout out to Giaffo for working on some more cool things.
I believe been on the show, if I'm not.
Yes.
Yes. That's what I thought.
That's what I said. Former guest of the pod.
I cannot tell whether and I'm not gonna go following through the books, but I don't know if Vulcan is on the Quiet Council or not. I might be tripping. Actually, hold on. Quiet Council. My Google Fu is failing me. Vulcan's been second one. There's Mystique who will undermine the Vulcan High Council. No, that's not it.
All right. Well, Roddykat.
You know what? I think you might be. I might be wrong. We'll find out some other time. Right now, let's just keep up.
All right. So we're up to the new Spidey team.
Yep. Marvel announces new Spider-Man creative team. Apparently, Zeb Wells and artist John Romita Jr. are launching a new volume of the Amazing Spider-Man, and thanks to Agent 70 for reminding me about this, or for let me know about this to put it in the lineup. It's gonna start in April, marking this character's 60th anniversary with a new #1 issue, as they tend to want to do way too much. As with the movie series, the comic book Spider-Man's new start comes as he finds himself isolated from friends. There's a typo, family, and allies. Although in this case, he does have Doc Ock on his tail, and Tombstone's making some moves that Marvel says will reestablish him as one of Spidey's most dangerous foes. Both Wells and Romita have a long history with the character. I believe I have recently seen somebody say it was like, there needs to be a Romita drawing Spider-Man. It should be a given. And that's probably in relation to this. So giving this run a kind of a greatest hits feel of worthy of an anniversary run. Then it just kind of goes into some other stuff about it. So cool. Next up.
All righty. Next up, Marvel Comics and Webtoon have officially announced Eternals, the 500-Year War, the latest addition to Marvel's Infinity Comics lineup of digital comic series. While Marvel's existing Infinity Comics titles like Hulkling and Wiccan have allowed the House of Ideas to dabble in Webtoon-style storytelling, the 500-Year War marks the first official collaboration between the two publishers. So it's a 7-part series launched on January 12th on Marvel Unlimited. The title will make its way to Webtoon starting Thursday, January 20th, so in another week. And the 500-Year War stars the titular race of living gods who recently made their screen debut in Chloe Zhao's Marvel Studios film Eternals, which is also now on Disney+.
Oh, right. Yeah, we did forget to mention that, and thank you for doing that. So, yeah, Eternals is out there, folks. Have at it.
I watched most of it. I rewatched most of it. It's still just as good. I really don't see why so many people weren't fans of it, but it's a different pace.
Yeah, and that might be, people's,
expectations.
Well, that too, and attention spans are different.
Yeah,
than what they used to be. Damn whippersnappers. Anyway.
No.
Storm and Luke Cage are iconic in Black History Month cover art. So this February, Marvel will be releasing 6 variant covers to celebrate Black History Month. All 6 covers are being illustrated by Joshua Swaby, comic artist who's provided numerous covers for Marvel, DC, Image, and Dynamite. Luke Cage and Storm are the next gorgeous additions to his growing portfolio. So apparently on Twitter, Swaby shared the covers for both X-Men number 8 and Devil's Reign number 4. Fittingly, Storm is featured on X-Men, duh, while Luke Cage is on Devil's Reign, also duh. And if you are watching the video version, you can see at least one of them. Or at least you can see the tweet to at least one of them right there. Next.
All righty, and some actually, I think, good news. Image Comics employees have officially voted to unionize. So Image Comics has officially become the first unionized comic book company, with 9 Image employees voting 7-2 in favor of unionization. So, as reported by both Vice and the Twitter account Daily Union Elections, 9 Image Comics employees voted 7-2 in favor of unionizing with Comic Book Workers United and the Communications Workers of America (CWA) on January 6th. Comic Book Workers United, the union formed by Image employees, previously told Vice that it had a supermajority of workers who were eligible to vote on the matter. So they had first announced plans, these employees, had first announced plans to unionize back in November. And it was a letter signed by Ryan Brewer, Leanna Counter, actually, Marla Isaac, Drew Fitzgerald, Melissa Gifford, Chloe Ramos, Trisha Ramos, John Schlafman, and Erica Schnatz. So I'm not familiar with these persons. They are, I guess they were the workers in publishing, behind the publishing. So they're not necessarily the members of the creative teams or even the editorial teams, but they're part of the publishing staff. And I guess that is, that is the crux of this union effort.
That hopefully will filter upwards. And around, to upwards to the big 2, and around to the other companies, because like you said, this is definitely a great thing. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. Fire Force manga ends in quote unquote a few chapters, about 2 volumes. Manga creator Atsushi Okuba revealed on his Dark Souls live stream on December 31st that his Fire Force manga will end in a few chapters and that he has 2 chapters left to draw. He's also confirmed that the manga will end in about 2 volumes, which would be the 34th volume. The manga entered its final arc in October 2021. Okubo previously hinted in the author's commentary of the manga's 23rd compiled folk volume in May 2020 that the manga was in its final stage and that he was planning for Final First to be his final manga. I'm still waiting for Fire Force Season 3. Make it happen. Thank you very much.
That's funny. I actually, we were just talking about this. I just started Fire Force. Interestingly enough, on Funimation, they only have it in dub.
Interesting.
Right. So if you jump over to Crunchyroll, I think they have it in sub.
Yes, they do, because that's how I watched it. So
I'm just confirming this now. I'm popping onto the website just to double check, because I don't want to speak out of turn. I just felt like I was kind of surprised. I'm like, wait, why is this only in dub?
I don't think I've even heard the dub. Or maybe I did for the first episode and kept it subbed. Nose up.
Oh no, wait a second. Hold on. Now it says English and Japanese. So it might have been because of the Attack on Titan business. because I think I think I tried to start watching it on Sunday when everything was a little wonky because everyone was crashing all of the anime, whatchamacallit, all of the anime streamers.
Yeah, and Funimation kind of handles their whether you can see dub or sub differently than Crunchyroll does anyway. So that could, yeah.
Because I remember watching it in dub, and I was like, "Wait, why don't I have a choice?" So I jumped over to Crunchyroll, and I saw that they had it in sub. So I kind of rewatched part of it just to get a feel of what the voice acting was in Japanese. But now I see that it is available in English and Japanese on Funimation. So I definitely suspect that Attack on Titan, the aftermath of the Attack on Titan crashing of all the servers, had an effect on my experience watching Fire Force. So I'm going to try to give this another shot. So there are 2 seasons of Fire Force anime out there. So I think this is going to be my next watch, and we'll see how well it goes.
Are you're gonna stick with dubbed, or
No, I'm gonna go back to sub, but
okay.
but my point is, I just thought it was weird that I only had access to dub, but it makes all the sense in the world that it was just a glitch because of that particular Sunday. I'm gonna avoid watching anything else other than Attack on Titan on Sundays now and Demon Slayer because all that the servers just can't handle it.
Yeah. Apparently. Yeah, which is why I'm kind of glad I didn't watch Demon Slayer Sunday, but probably should at some point soon. I look forward to seeing what you think about Fire Force if you make it through it.
I probably will. It's
I enjoy
there's only a couple of animes that I've kind of stopped and haven't yet gone back to, like Naruto. But I got through like 20 something episodes of Naruto, so it'll take me a little while to really kind of get not fed up, but just kind of like annoyed to the point where I want to stop and rewatch something I really like Haikyuu or My Hero.
Right.
Like I rewatched My Hero Academia a couple of times, like here and there, not all the way through, but just like, oh, you know what, I want to watch this arc.
I suspect after I finish, we were talking before the show, and I was telling Agent 7 that I was watching One Punch Man, or I guess kind of rewatching One Punch Man at the point, and I'm debating on hitting My Hero after that, but also had put a rewatch of Samurai Champloo on deck, so we'll see which one of those two ends up happening.
Right. I definitely recommend jumping into My Hero because it watches very quickly. Like, I mean, obviously I'm a binge watcher. So if I see something that catches my that piques my interest and catches my imagination, where I'll run through, especially if there's no commercial breaks. I'll run through like 5 to 10 episodes and be like, all right, now I need to take a break or go to bed.
Yeah, that would be me about 4 normally.
So, but in any event, that is Anime Corner. And that is the end of our news.
That's it. Yeah, like I said, stay tuned for more of that. Oh yeah, I did start back on Dragon Ball Super, like I said. But yeah, so that, folks, is the end of the news, and we are at the end of this here show. Let's get one more ad read out of us, shall we?
Our last ad read of the night. You know what we read when it's late and we're tired. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. That's right. Visit cspn.us and click on that Keep Our Podcast Free link. And from there, you scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
Woo! Excuse me, folks. As we come to the end of another episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles, not just any old episode, but the 450th episode of the Comic Book Chronicles, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out. I'm going to sit here and say in passing that I never thought I would be in the hosting chair. Even after all of this time. Like there has
Well,
been
at the end of the day, it's a co-hosting gig, but
I mean it is.
Roddykat takes on the bulk of the manual electronic labor.
Well, yes, there is that also. But no, I'm just saying just even starting the show or even being, having some sort of co-hosting, like when I came in, I kind of came in off the rafters and just as a panelist. As well, I guess that's what we all
Well, as it got, what I was going to say though is, as it got a little bit more, as Tim Dog 98 jokingly put it, a little bit more overproduced,
yes.
and as our technology, as technology grew, advanced, and became as our options became wider but also more limited.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to endure lots of hiccups and changes and adjustments along the way. At the beginning of this show, if I knew I was going to have a soundboard with all these different sounds on it, as opposed to what we used to use in Google Hangouts,
yes,
I don't think I would have believed it.
Indeed, we wouldn't be.
I don't
buying
think so.
mics and mixers and shit like this. Although to be fair, I bought my stuff for other stuff that I was doing, but
Of course. I mean, I upgraded my mic setup. I upgraded my sound setup, especially to play well with the sound effects. So, it's just it's been we've come a long way, folks. So thank you for your support again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for interacting with us on social media. We'll try to be more active. It's just been such a weird time. We're in this weird stage of the pandemic where we're not locked down, but it's still difficult to do things sometimes. So, we're here for you, and I know you're there for us. So,
appreciate it.
let's just hang in there and work our way through.
Indeed, and it has been a long road, like the beginning of Star Trek Star Trek Enterprise.
It's our continuing mission.
Yes, indeed. Wow, that wasn't even planned, folks. And on that, folks, before we get misty out here, this has been the Comic Book Chronicle. Wait, hold on, back up. Sorry. Let me not rush this off real quick before I say I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_7 you can find on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt you can find on Twitter. You can find them also on wow, why did I blank that quick? Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites they're in. And of course, the Osiris that is Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. You can also find him at CB Chron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account, which we should probably seize.
Nicely, we do it nicely.
Yes, exactly. We're asking for it. It won't be a hostile takeover or anything like that, but we'll see. Also, the Click Nation on Twitter. That's the KLIQNATION and theclicknation.com. And also, you can find Tim writing his face off over at comicbook.com. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
Shout out to the Coastal crew of old, including our own Tim and the aforementioned classic and eclectic. The artist formerly known as classic and eclectic, but
right, OJ Purple stuff.
Exactly. Doing big things, wrestling wrestling announcing and stuff like that. We see over here. We see you over there, big dog. We see you. Also, the word to say. Oh yeah, you can find us this podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network SoundCloud page. And actually, we did give a shout out to Eclectic. Go check out that man's podcast also. The Eclectic Discussion Podcast. I can't remember what's the one with him and 12 Kyle. But yeah, go check out Eclectic on Twitter. That's Eclectic with a K at the end, by the way. So go check him out. Go check out OJ Purple stuff. Go check out Tim DOG, all of them folks. You can find us here every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Recording live on the YouTube channel of The Click Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Smash that like button. Give us some views. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, hit like and subscribe, folks.
Yeah, all that. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. 450 in the books.
My time is up. Peace out, Brooklyn.